Are you a family caregiver? Are you caregiving for someone who can no longer take care of themselves? Are you overwhelmed? This is Caregiver Solutions Info with Marcia Teele. Marcia will be hosting an hour of true stories and information, tips and updates of the latest research and necessary information in the caregiving field, focusing on you, the family caregiver. An Alzheimer's disease and dementia care expert, Marcia has 15 years of hands-on experience at Arden Courts, a leader in assisted living dementia communities here in the U.S. Marcia covers everything you need to know as a family caregiver, especially if you care for a loved one with Alzheimer's disease or other related dementia or chronic illness. If you have a friend or relative that is also a family caregiver, call them now. They won't want to miss a minute. And let them know they can watch on caregiversolutions.info. And they can listen on WNN 1470 AM in South Florida or nationally on the iHeartRadio app. Now, sit back, relax, and learn from our host, Marcia Teele, as she brings information to you that may just be the caregiving solution you need.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Caregiver Solutions Info. My name is Marcia Teele, and I'm so happy to have you with me today because this week, as every Tuesday from 5 to 6, we have a wonderful program for caregivers, for family caregivers that are caring for someone that cannot care for themselves. So whether you're a spouse, maybe you're an adult child, maybe you're even a grandchild, and you're caring for someone that needs your help, the show is for you. I'm so excited that you're here today. We have guest speakers from all different expertise of elder law attorneys, geriatric care managers, nurses, social workers, home health administrators, hospital administrators, you name it. And we're going to bring those experts to you so that we ask the questions and you get the answers. In addition, sometimes we even have actual caregivers on the program because who better to know how you feel and what you're going through than another caregiver walking in your shoes. So I'm glad you're here. Thank you for joining us today. We are live from Boca Raton, Florida. And I want to start with our local community caregiver corner. And this is a time where we like to announce events that are happening in our local South Florida area. So I want you to take a pen and paper and write this down because you don't want to miss this event that's coming up on December 1st. It is a fundraiser for the Alzheimer's Community Care. Now, Alzheimer's Community Care is an organization local to South Florida. They have an annual event. This year it's going to be at St. Andrew's Country Club in Boca Raton. The date is December 1st, and it's from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. with a nice luncheon at the country club, a silent auction, and a lot of surprises. As a matter of fact, this year's theme is The Wizard of Oz, There's No Place Like Home. So you want to come because this is not only a fundraiser, but it's a lot of fun too. If you would like to get in on a discounted ticket price, you'll want to go to their website, owlscare.org, before tomorrow, which is November 23rd, and go online to get a discounted ticket. Otherwise, if you wait until next week, it's going to go up a little bit. So again, Alzheimer's Community Care, There's No Place Like Home, fundraiser, December 1st. Don't miss it. I'll be there. I hope you will be too. So I'm very excited today because we have a great show. If you're someone that's taking care of someone at home, you probably realize that it's not always very easy. Matter of fact, it's probably the hardest thing you've ever had to do. As caregivers, we don't learn this in school. We don't go to college to learn how to be a caregiver. Most time it's thrust upon us unaware, and we have to learn as we go. So caregivers jump in, they do their best, but at times they find out that they just need some help. And if you're a caregiver, I want you to not feel guilty when you feel that way because caregiving is an extremely difficult job. As a matter of fact, Dr. Murray Todd of the North Broward Center in the Fort Lauderdale area one time said that it takes 3 people to take care of a person with dementia. So whether you're caring for someone with Alzheimer's or another type of dementia or some other physical ailment, you're going to find that at times you're going to be tired, you're going to feel frustrated, you're going to feel angry, and you're going to feel guilty. These are all very, very normal feelings. And when you're feeling that way, something is out of balance. And when something is out of balance between how you are and how your loved one that you're caring for is not in sync, I kind of look at it like a scale where there's 2 sides of a scale that are on chains. And when everything is in balance, the scale is perfectly in balance. But if your side goes down, it means something is out of balance. And there must be something done to bring it back up so that you're back in balance. Sometimes the scale goes down on your loved one's side, and then the scale again is out of balance. So we look at this as a balancing, and what this represents is quality of life. And that's really the goal. As you're caregiving for someone, you really want quality of life. That's your ultimate goal, however you achieve that. So if everything's in balance, you're going to have quality of life. Your loved one's going to have quality of life. If something's out of balance, then that's your key, that's your tip, that's a red flag that you need to do something to get back into balance. So today we're going to be talking about one way to get back in balance if you're a caregiver. And that means getting some help. Now, a lot of people start with help, sometimes from family or friends or neighbors, and that's great. But sometimes family, friends, or neighbors really don't know what to do. They also don't have the expertise to do it. And so when you're looking for some help and you really need expertise help, you're going to want to go to the right people. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, is the right people to help you with a loved one, someone that can help you in your caregiving efforts. How do you find the right people? How do you know what questions to ask in order to find the best company to help you? And I'm so excited today because we have experts on caregiving that have home health just for you, and they're going to explain to you all of that information and more. So I'm very excited. I want to introduce to you now, we have Right at Home, and with us today we have Shay Gonzalez and we have Grace Wynn. Welcome.
Thank you, Marcia.
Thank you for having us.
You're very welcome. I'm very happy to see both of you. I've known both of you for a while now, and I know that you all have a wonderful company called Right at Home. And we want to talk about what makes your company special and what makes it different. Now, I know, Grace, you are an owner of Right at Home here in South Florida, and you're also the administrator in the office.
Yes.
And Shay, you're a home specialist, a home care specialist, and you have a very big part in actually creating what makes your company special. So let's start off real quick with just some background about Right at Home. And Grace, explain to me about what Right at Home is and how it got started.
Yeah, I would love to. Right at Home probably sounds a little bit foreign to most of the people in Florida. However, the company has been around for 20 years. So it started in 1995 in Omaha, Nebraska. So Right at Home is one of the large established international organizations.
It's international?
It is.
Now, not all home health companies are international, are they?
That is correct. So Right at Home, we have 500 locations throughout the United States. And in Florida, we probably have 15 offices throughout. And also we have presence in 8 different countries, including Canada, UK, China, and Brazil. So it is one of the large nationwide company.
Well, that's very interesting because, you know, there are many, and when I say many, I mean probably hundreds of home health companies around in this area, because we are an area that have a lot of older people, a lot of retirees, and a lot of people come to Florida to retire and they age here. So obviously this is a good place for home health companies to be. But most of them are not nationwide, and most of them are not international either. So right there, I think that is very unique about your company, that shows that obviously there's something good that's expanding and going all across the globe.
Right. Yeah.
So are you actually a franchise?
It is. We are the local owner in Boca Raton. We have two offices. One is in Boca Raton, the other is in Deerfield. So our actually services cover both Palm Beach and Broward County.
Very good, very good. Well, there's a lot of people that need a lot of help out there. So I'm glad that you're spreading it out and helping a lot of people. So when someone is looking for a home health company, there's a difference between an agency and a registry. Now, which one are you?
We are the home care agency.
You're an agency.
Yes.
So for our audience who may not know the difference between an agency and a registry, can you explain that for them, please?
Absolutely. Actually, Martha, thank you for asking that question. It's a very important question, especially when you're looking for a home care company. A lot of people probably do not realize that what is the difference when you're trying to look for the home care company to care for their loved ones. I will summarize some of the important points. So when you look for a home care company, first the question is asked, is the caregiver your employees? As a home care agency, all our caregivers are our W-2 employees.
So they work directly for you.
That's correct.
Now, if it's the other, which is a registry, it's almost like how it sounds. They register, almost like put their
Right.
name on a register in order to be able to work for you, but they're not a direct employee.
They are the independent contractor for the registry.
Okay,
That
and why is
correct.
that important? Why is it important for you to have, as an agency, people that are your employees as opposed to people that are direct contractors? What is one better than the other?
The major difference is that you can train your employees, you can discipline them. But as an independent contractor, you cannot do anything about that.
So if you have someone that you are training and then they don't maybe do what you've trained them to do, you really don't have a lot of authority over them to, like you say, discipline them or correct them. But if they're your employees, then of course you can, I guess, maybe hold them to a higher standard.
Absolutely. I think, Martha, you summarized very well. So, for example, if the caregiver is late, and as an employer, you can discipline them, say, hey, this is the rule that you have to follow as a caregiver. But as an independent contractor, you pretty much don't have a lot of say to them what they can do, what they cannot do.
Wow. Now that's interesting, because for the example that you gave, if someone's late, so you have a client and they're expecting a caregiver to show up at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
And if you're a registry, which you're not, but if you were a registry and you said to, Sally, you're going to go see Mrs. Jones at 9 o'clock, and Sally decides to show up at 10 because, she just didn't want to get up in the morning, that's not good, and you don't really have a lot of recourse over Sally.
Absolutely.
And what happens then, what that means to your customer, that's really not good customer service, because poor Mrs. Jones has been waiting for Sally to show up for an hour, and so now, she's suffering. So I like the fact that you're explaining the difference, because I think it means a lot to the consumer, where they have also recourse, to go back to you as an owner.
Right, exactly. Like if there's some of the independent contractor, a lot of customers, they do not realize that actually they are the employer of the caregiver. It's the client is the employer of the caregiver, not the agent, not the registry. The registry acts more like a caregiver matchmaker. I would put it that way.
Okay.
So they go to find somebody, say, hey, do you have time? And the caregiver say, okay, so I can hop on and take the shift. but that does not mean the registry is their employer. They are
Gotcha.
just like matchmaker, if
Okay.
I put it that way.
Right. And I know as having the caregivers as your employees, there are a lot of benefits not only to the employees, but there's also benefits to the end consumer by being an employee. And on that note, we're going to take our first commercial break, and you'll get the answer to that as soon as we come back. So stay tuned.
Arden Courts is not just a place to live, it's a place to call home. Residential living combined with quality caregiving. This is the philosophy behind Arden Courts. Communities created exclusively for individuals with Alzheimer's disease and related dementia who would benefit from a safe and structured environment. For additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides, call 888-478-2410 to locate a community nearest you. Inquire about our educational seminars, resource library, or support groups, or simply feel free to ask questions you may have about Alzheimer's and related dementias. At Arden Courts, we know, we understand, and we can help because memory care is all we do. Remember, call 888-478-2410 for additional information about any of the unique services Arden Courts provides.
The bottom line is it was the absolute right choice.
Being unable to recognize the obvious often occurs with Alzheimer's or related dementias, even among their caregivers. When the time comes for you to decide that someone you love needs more help than you can give, will you be able to recognize it? Don't wait for a crisis to make the decision for you. Talk to Arden Courts. Memory care is all we do. We know, we understand, we can help. To learn more, visit arden-courts.com. Arden Courts follows equal housing opportunity guidelines. Somewhere at the corner of bewildered and confused is a lost mother, a father, a sibling, a grandparent. Wandering is a common symptom of Alzheimer's or related dementias and can often make those who care for a loved one feel just as lost. If you're looking for a place that's safe and secure, look to Arden Courts. Memory care is all we do. We know, we understand, we can help. To learn more, visit arden-courts.com. Arden Courts follows equal housing opportunity guidelines.
And welcome back to Caregiver Solutions Info. Thank you for joining us today. I'm talking with Right at Home, a home health agency. And with me right now is Grace Wynn. She's one of the owners and administrator. And also I have Shay Gonzalez, who is a home care specialist. So we're talking, ladies, about the difference between an agency and a registry. And before we went to break, I kept everybody on their toes and told them that we were going to explain some of the other benefits. Besides having the caregivers that work for you as employees, there's a lot of benefits to someone using a company like Right at Home. Because why? What do you have to do as far as background checks for the person that you're employing that's going to go into a private home? What do they need to have?
So for the employees to become for the caregiver to become the employees of Right at Home, we actually went through a very high selective process. The first is the level 2 background checks. All our caregivers have the level 2 background check. And then we also have the phone interview and the live interview process. And not only that, when we bring them in, and then we also have the intensive training. So maybe Shay can discuss a little bit about, because she is very familiar with all the hiring process.
Yes, I think that is very, very important, because, you can have a great company with great policies and great procedures, but if you don't have great caregivers, then what do you have, right?
Exactly.
And I know that Shay, I've talked with her before, and she is very, very passionate about what she does. And Shay, one of the things that you do specifically is that you go through the hiring process looking for those special caregivers. So can you tell me about that?
Okay, yeah, sure. And yes, I do. It's an extensive hiring process. So the first thing we do is we call them and we ask them some questions, their background experience, if they've had any previous work for any previous companies, and especially if they've taken care of a family member before. So, you know what it's like to care for a client as if they were family. I think that's the one important thing that we look for is compassion and empathy. It's two key aspects of that.
So you look for people that have actually cared for a loved one themselves.
Yes, we do.
And I think that's great because they have, like you say, not only the experience doing that, but they know what it feels like. And they know, what they would want for their family because they've done it before. And I think that's really awesome. So you really key in on the people that have had personal experience in caregiving.
Yes, I certainly do.
Well, that's great. And so what is a level 2? Does that include fingerprinting? People have to go
yes.
through fingerprinting?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a level 2 fingerprint screen.
Okay. And what else do they have to do? What kind of background checks do you do?
Well, it's required. So we do the level 2 background fingerprint through ACA. So
And ACA is Agency for Healthcare Administration, in case you didn't
Yes.
know that. Okay.
so we make sure it's screened through ACA. So they do the approval whether they're eligible to work for our company, because if they're not, then we will not hire them.
So what would make somebody not eligible through ACA to work for a company?
I would say if they had an expired license most of the time, or if they have something on their record that was obviously, it could be, anything from theft to larceny, whatever it may be.
Right. So you don't want any felon,
No.
somebody that's
Exactly.
into drugs. So they're looking at all that. So you're doing background checks on drugs and fingerprinting and criminal records. Make
Yes.
sure that everybody's top notch, clean, and then but you go a little further. So what happens when you do a face-to-face? So you get through that process and now you're in a face-to-face. What makes a caregiver special in your eyes?
Well, it's when you're on the phone with a potential, candidate to be a caregiver, it's completely different when you're in person with somebody. It's so different being in person. So when you look into their eyes and you ask them, what made you want to be a caregiver? Why did you, come in and apply to our company? And you can tell when you look into their eyes whether they're being sincere or they're not. And that's the key for me. But we asked them, why is it, and what's the reason, what is your background experience, and, just verifying some information from them and learning a little bit more about their lives and their background, why, from the beginning of their employment history, and a little bit about themselves, just to really get that one-on-one connection.
Well, I think that's real important because, like you say, you look in their eyes, and if people don't look you in the eye when you're speaking to them, that might be a telltale sign. They have something to hide usually. But I think that you're very perceptive and you're looking for that warmth and you're looking for that sincerity and you're looking for the reason. They just don't want a paycheck, right? They want to be helpful. They want to do something that's going to make a difference. And I think that's what ultimately we all want, people in our lives to help and make a difference. And so I think it's awesome that you go that extra mile to find those people that have that special quality that's going to be there for your clients.
Right.
I like that a lot. Yeah.
It is more than a job to
Yes.
a lot of the caregivers.
It has to be for the right reasons, of course.
So you must go through a lot of people before you hire the right ones, I would imagine, because not everybody's cut out to be a caregiver. And then they go through the training process. What kind of training is required before they get hired by you? They're part of your agency. Now they're an employee. What kind of training do they get before they go and step in Mrs. Jones' home?
Well, so after the live interview, the next step, we have orientation. Orientation is, I'd say, roughly about 4 hours. And we have them come in, we give them the background information on Right at Home, and obviously the difference between a registry and an agency as well, because caregivers should be informed, especially if they're already in the industry themselves. So we go over that, and then we go over our procedures, customer service. What is the right way to approach a client? How do you address a client? Because not everybody knows. So, if it's let's say Philip Smith, you address him as Mr. Smith, or if it's Sherry, you say Mrs. Sherry, or address them by their last name, whatever is comfortable.
Or whatever they
Whatever
prefer.
they prefer, right. Everybody has different preferences.
No honey, sweetie, dear, right? I think a
Not
lot
even.
of people think that's kind of condescending when they say that, and some people might like it, but you want to, again, you're going for what the client wants.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And what else do they get trained on besides how to address somebody?
Well, you maintain the confidentiality, so any medical history, any information disclosed, it's only between the client, the caregiver, and then the office staff. So nobody else can know. You don't tell your family. You don't tell your friends. That's just for you and the office and the client to have
Very,
that
very
information.
important, right? That's that HIPAA compliance that everybody
Absolutely.
hears
Oh, yes.
about.
Yes.
The HIPAA compliance means as a healthcare professional, you can't disclose information that you know that's private and personal to a customer or a client or somebody that you're caring for. That is actually can be something that if you break the HIPAA compliance, it can actually be reprimanded through the state, and you could actually be sued or
sued.
fined
Oh,
yeah.
for that.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I think it's also important for people to know when they're hiring a home health person to come into the home to feel at least confident knowing that there is that law to protect them. And I'm glad that you make sure that you train everybody on that because it is very important. And, people are a little skittish when they don't know who they look in the phone book and there's so many different companies, like I said. So how do you know which one? So we're going through the step by step so that caregivers can understand what they should be looking for, what they need to ask, what are the things that they can expect, right?
Right.
So now you've trained them on how to address somebody, you train them on the HIPAA compliance, you train them on proper procedures in the home. What kind of services, Grace, would Right at Home provide to a client? So if I were at home and I'm a daughter and my mom is in Florida and I'm in New York and I need someone to help her with some things, what kind of services would I expect that your company could do for my mom?
Okay. There's a lot of services that we can provide. For example, we provide companion care, which including the lighthouse cleaning, meal preparations, and medication reminder, and also bringing to the doctor's appointment and running errands. And also sometimes the client may need help for bathing, dressing, and transferring, and all those services that we can provide as well. So pretty much including most of the instrumental daily activities that the client needs, and we can help them.
Okay, I'm glad that you said that because when we come back from our next commercial break, we're going to talk about the difference between ADLs. What is an ADL? I'll give you a hint. It's activities of daily living, and what someone can do to help with ADLs and what somebody can't do to help with ADLs, and what's the difference, right? And we'll talk about that as soon as we come back from our commercial break. So stay tuned, and we'll be back right at home. We'll be right back.
The inability to recognize the obvious often occurs with Alzheimer's, particularly among the family members who care for them. When the time comes for you to decide that someone you love needs more help than you can give, will you be able to recognize it? Don't wait for a crisis to make the decision for you. Talk to us. We know. We understand. We can help. Arden Courts. Wandering is a common problem for people with Alzheimer's or related dementias. It's also a problem for family members who care for them. Keeping them safe and secure means never letting your guard down. And even though deep down you know it's time, it hurts to have to ask for help. But it could hurt them even more if you didn't. We know. We understand. We can help. Arden Courts. Somewhere at the corner of bewildered and confused, is a lost mother, a father, a sibling, a grandparent. Wandering is a common symptom of Alzheimer's or related dementias and can often make those who care for a loved one feel just as lost. If you're looking for a place that's safe and secure, look to Arden Courts. Memory care is all we do. We know, we understand, we can help. To learn more, visit arden-courts.com. Arden Courts follows equal housing opportunity guidelines.
A story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
And welcome back to Caregiver Solutions Info, the show for you, the family caregiver. I'd like to thank our national sponsor, Arden Courts Memory Care Community. They help make this show possible for you. And Arden Courts is here to help not only your loved ones with Alzheimer's or other type of dementia, but they're here to help you, the caregiver, as well. And one of the ways that Arden Courts does that is to provide educational opportunities. They have seminars all across the country at their 52 locations that are free for caregivers. And they also would like to offer you this book. It's called The 36-Hour Day. It's written by Dr. Peter Rabins, and it's a very, very useful tool for caregivers. This book is a guide caring for people who have Alzheimer's disease and other related dementia. And because it's been revised, it's up to the latest information included every time it's been through probably 5 editions right now. So this is a great book. If you have not read this book, Arden Courts would like to give it to you for free. And all you have to do is call their toll-free number, which is 888-478-2410. Let them know that you heard about this free offer on the Caregiver Solutions Info program, and they will get your name and address, and they'll be happy to mail it out to you free of charge. This is a great book, and Arden Courts is a wonderful company. They're the leader in dementia care. They're one of the experts that have started specialized communities just for people that don't need a nursing home, but really need more than care at home. Therefore, they are an assisted living specifically for memory care. So if that's something that you need, mention it when you call the toll-free number. Again, 888-478-2410. So we are here with Right at Home. And joining me today is Shay Gonzalez, and we have Grace Wynn. Now, both of them are talking about all the different things that a caregiver would need to know when selecting an appropriate home care agency to have a provider come into their home. So we've been going through all the background, and Shay's explaining about what caregivers have to go through in order to be qualified. And now Grace is going to explain to us the difference between someone who can help with intimate activities in the home as opposed to someone who would help with certain other things that are non-hands-on. And I guess that's probably the best way to explain it. So welcome back, Shay and Grace.
Thank
So Grace, explain the difference between some caregivers can only do non-medical and some can do medical, or some can do hands-on and some can't do hands-on. And what's the difference?
Okay. So I think using hands-on probably is the very best way for people to understand. So for example, non-hands-on is some of the caregiver can do is that we're not going to touch the patient, which means the meal preparation, lighthouse cleaning, medication reminder, and we also provide the transportation.
So that's the first part. Before
Yes.
break, you explained that caregivers could do those duties. So
Correct.
that's called companion
Companion care.
care, and that's non-hands-on.
Correct.
And even with the medication, you're reminding the customer, the client, to take their pill. You're not actually handing it and putting it in their
Right.
hands or their mouth. Now explain the other, where the hands-on, what can they do?
With the hands-on is the patient probably need assistance in dressing, bathing, and transferring. For example, some people, they have difficulty to put the clothes on.
Right.
So our caregiver can help them to help them for dressing. So at that point, so we are going to touch the patients. That's what we consider hands-on.
Okay.
So, for example, the other patient have the difficulty to go to the bathroom,
Right.
or get inside their car when they're using the walker or the cane, and the caregiver actually can help them to transfer from one location to the other location.
Okay.
So that's what's the transferring.
And are those different duties covered by different certifications that a caregiver has to have?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
Because for the caregiver to provide hands-on services to the patient, they need to have certain kind of training.
Okay.
The minimum is as a HHA, which is a home care home care assistance.
Okay.
So they have to be through 72 minimum hours for those training. So in that way, when you help the patients for bathing, dressing, and transferring, you will do the right way.
That's very important. So there's more extensive training, more hours.
Absolutely.
Okay. And who determines what type of care that the patient needs? Is there an assessment done, or is it just by request, or does a doctor tell you? How do you know what services that you're going to need to provide in the home?
That is a very good question,
Thank
Marcia.
you.
Yeah. When the patient first call, and we actually, first is they probably talk on the phone. So we collect some of the basic information of the patients to understand what is the needs of that. By asking the question, we have a very detailed list of the questionnaire that we follow through. And by asking those questions, you kind of get the understanding what kind of needs that the patient is looking for. So do they have difficulty dressing? Do they have difficulty bathing themselves? Or do they have difficulty transferring from the wheelchair to the other location?
So they're going to tell you, but
Yes.
but I would imagine that sometimes when you're actually in the home and you're there watching and looking at the environment, that you may actually observe that there are other needs that haven't been met that you could provide.
Right.
Yeah.
So before we actually serve the client, we actually provide a free care assessment with our registered nurse. Completely no charge to the patient.
No charge.
That's correct.
No charge. Okay, so that's something that is a very good value for somebody. And what is involved in that?
So we meet with the patient and ask the question, and also walk around inside the home to find out is there any safety hazard.
Okay, so you're looking for slips and falls that could be prevented.
Right.
And this is through a registered nurse that does this?
That is correct.
Okay,
so
good.
a lot of time is our office staff, either me and Shay or the other owner, we go and then with the registered nurse, and then we meet with the family and meet with the patient to understand what is the condition. A lot of time, actually, we work hand in hand with the nurse, which means the other home health agency, they provide the skilled nurse of type, the service. And from that perspective, we really understand what is the medical condition of the patient.
Very good. Well, you're right there, so you know.
Exactly.
So now I want to talk about something else that I know that makes you extra special. Shay was in my office about a month ago, and she started to teach me some things that only certain people know. And I'm just going to let her talk to us about it. It is something that I think is, again, makes your company special. We're going to be talking about mind, body, and spirit, and what that means, because I know you as a company encompass mind, body, and spirit with your caregivers and your clients together. So, Shay, why don't you explain to everybody what that means?
Alrighty, I would love to. So we have Tai Chi, and we teach Tai Chi at several residences right now, Peter, Grace, and myself. Tai Chi improves the body, strength, and the flexibility. So it's a slow, unforced movement, but you go at your own pace. So you have your strength, and you just go kind of slowly, but it's steady, and you use that resistant force, which builds that strength in your upper body. So you can do this if you're in a wheelchair as well. So we do provide it at rehab facilities as well, assisted living, independent living.
Okay, so I know when you were in my office, we did a little Tai Chi, and I was sitting down as like maybe I were a patient, and you went through the different motions with that, and I was very interesting because I'd never actually experienced that before. And you see sometimes people doing the motions, but there's a lot that goes into it, and I guess that's why you're talking about the mind, body, and spirit, because you're actually moving your body, but what does it do to your mind, and what does it do for your spirit when you're doing Tai Chi?
As for your mind, so it does improve the cognitive function. So there has been studies that have said that it improves the memory of a person who may be suffering from any type of dementia or even mood disorder.
Is that because they have to concentrate and focus, and it helps them, getting their brain working and moving a little bit better? Is basically their attention?
There's a research, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
There was a research to show that the Tai Chi actually create a neurological pathway, create a new neurological pathway in your brain, and that is help the patient will connect everything better. So maybe that is the way, by doing all this movement as Shane explained, and it actually helps some of the patient, for example, have the Parkinson disease, have the Alzheimer disease. So it actually, some of the doctor prescribe the Tai Chi to a lot of the patient with some of the cognitive symptoms.
Wow. So doctors can actually say, this is what I need you to do because of the results. Well, anytime we learn something new, I mean, this is what the researchers say, that, we want to learn something new to keep our brains moving and making those new neurological pathways, because anything that we learn that we didn't know before is going to exercise our brain that way. And I, love to dance. And if you don't like to dance, then you're going to learn something else, how to play an instrument or how to do. But the key, I think, is learning something new and moving. So how great is Tai Chi that you guys promote, because you're actually learning something new and it involves movement. And so therefore you have the body, you have the mind. And tell me about the spirit part. How does that enter into it?
Well, aside from that, I did want to mention that it does lower the incidence of anxiety, depression, and if you have mood disorders, it improves your mood, because Tai Chi is said to unblock and encourage the flow of energy, and Qi is a form of, Qi is actually energy in Chinese. So that also assists with that. As for spirit, so like I said, it does improve, actually in the Chinese culture, they say it's almost meditation in motion.
Okay.
And then now they're saying it's medication in motion.
Yeah, non-pill form, right?
Right, exactly. So
Yeah.
you don't need a pill. You can do it on your own in your free time. But as for your spirit, it improves your emotional standpoint. So since it does have that flow in your body, as for the energy, it improves your mood. You're happier. It makes me happier. It helps just all the benefits of Tai Chi. It's a meditation. And when you think of meditation, what are the benefits of meditation?
Right.
This improves your
Relaxing, free your mind of all the worries, at least for a while.
for 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah. And anybody, like you said, can do it, whether you are in a wheelchair or whether you have a walker, because this is slow, and it's a slow, intentional movement is what it is. So, and it's something that's focused. And I think, like you said before, if it's regular, you're going to improve everything. You're going to improve the way, because you don't learn it like in a minute, and it's a process, but every time you do it, you increase all the benefits, right?
Of course, consistency. Over time, you build that resistant force, and your body will just adjust, and it will definitely improve the strength, the flexibility, and your overall spirit and the energy force that you build.
Wow.
You feel it.
That's exciting.
Because the slow motion and it kind of lower the brain wave, how people process information in your brain. So actually the research show that if every day you spend 30 minutes in your meditation, it actually benefit your health. So, and then what we're doing the Tai Chi here actually help people calm down and lower the brain rate. When we are talking, your brain rate is at a certain level because you're calming down, and then actually your brain rate is lower down. It's good for the meditation part.
Wow, that's great. So when you have clients, do all of them get it? Do the ones that requested or the ones that need it? How do you decide, or do you just give everybody a little bit of it, and how do you do that?
I could start off by saying we do encourage light exercise, and we do teach Tai Chi at a lot of, like I said, assisted living, independent living.
So you're giving back to the community when you do that.
And actually, a lot of the clients or patients that we have in those facilities, they learn about it and they come to our class.
Okay,
which benefits them as well. And we do have it for the public.
Yes.
Right now, we have it.
We're in a local
Parkinson.
community for the senior living community, and then we provide, as you mentioned, that is a way for us to give back to the community.
I think that's great because I know that you've come to our community and you've really made a difference with some of the people that they've never done this before and they really enjoyed it. And you go to different independent living, assisted living, and you're giving back by helping people this way. And not only are you giving back, helping them, but you're teaching them something new. And I think that's a wonderful way for you to work with the seniors because they're learning something new and it's going to help them all down the line as they age. And I think that something that home health companies don't always think about is they think about the body and helping the person with the body, but what about the mind? What about the spirit? And I love that about you guys because you're right there. You're just including every aspect of someone in your care. And I think it makes a big difference because if people feel better mentally, they're going to feel better physically. And I think they go hand in hand. And I think that is tremendous opportunity for people to have, through you. And I think it's a great philosophy of care that you've done. Do all of the Right at Homes do what you do, or is this special just for you all?
I think this is starting from our office, local office in Boca Raton and Deerfield. So we feel like this is the way that we want to make a difference compared with thousands of other home care companies out there. So this is one of the opportunities that we see that will make us a difference.
Yeah, well, you certainly sound like it is because, everything that we've talked about so far, you have set the standard and you have your standards and you've explained that. And when we come back from our last commercial break, we're going to talk about some of the other special ways that you've helped some of your clients and how you go above and beyond and maybe some actual real life stories that we can share. All right, so we'll be back in just a moment. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Do you need the advice?
Wandering is a common problem for people with Alzheimer's or related dementias. It's also a problem for family members who care for them. Keeping them safe and secure means never letting your guard down. And even though deep down you know it's time, it hurts to have to ask for help. But it could hurt them even more if you didn't. We know. We understand. We can help. Arden Courts. The inability to recognize the obvious often occurs with Alzheimer's, particularly among the family members who care for them. When the time comes for you to decide that someone you love needs more help than you can give, will you be able to recognize it? Don't wait for a crisis to make the decision for you. Talk to us. We know. We understand. We can help. Arden Courts. Being unable to recognize the obvious often occurs with Alzheimer's or related dementias, even among their caregivers. When the time comes for you to decide that someone you love needs more help than you can give, will you be able to recognize it? Don't wait for a crisis to make the decision for you. Talk to Arden Courts. Memory care is all we do. We know. We understand. we can help. To learn more, visit arden-courts.com. Arden Courts follows equal housing opportunity guidelines. Somewhere at the corner of bewildered and confused is a lost mother, a father, a sibling, a grandparent.
Our expert on caregiversolutions.info. If you have a question or wish to share a story, call into the show at 888-565-1470 and talk with Marcia. Now, back to Caregiver Solutions.
Hi, and welcome back. So I am right at home with Right at Home. And what I mean by that is I have the pleasure of having with me Shay Gonzalez and the administrator of the local Right at Home franchise, Grace Wynn. And they're with me today. And I feel right at home with them because you all are lovely. And I want to thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
So, if I feel right at home with them, I'm sure you will feel right at home with them too if you need services. So let's continue our conversation in the few minutes that we have left, because you all have explained what makes you unique, what makes Right at Home different, what makes you special, and especially talking about how you give back and you're helping people through your Tai Chi. And there must be some other stories that you could tell us of some, maybe if you have examples of a success story or something where one of your employees did something that made a big difference in someone's life. Can you share something like that with us?
I sure can. I can give a personal story. Actually, I came in as a caregiver myself. So we had a client. We currently still do, but he was in a rehab, and we had continuous care when he was when he transferred back to his home, and unfortunately he suffered some injuries and he had fallen. Something happened, so he was in the hospital, and his family does not live in Florida, unfortunately, so they're in New York, and I had gone to visit him a couple of times. So he was under a pretty tough medical conditions. So
probably a little depression too, being all by himself with no family around.
Yeah. It's very sad. So I would come, and I actually sat there with him, and I fed him, and I just talked to him, and he didn't have anybody there.
Aww.
So I would help him, and I saw that he needed help. So you could not understand what he was saying. So we had they have the CNA in the hospital and the nurse. So every time he would need something, I would go and press the button and explain to them this is what he needs, because it's hard to understand what he's saying. So for him not to have anybody there, and just feeling as if just walk in someone else's shoes. So I put myself in his position, and I can empathize with the situation. So that's why I tried to do whatever I could in order to help. So another thing that occurred, that was the same client. So I actually went a couple days ago, and his daughter wanted to speak with him because he hadn't seen his grandchildren. So I went to go visit him after work, and I FaceTime with his daughter.
On your own.
On my own free time.
After you've punched out from work, and you decided to go visit this man that you had bonded with.
Yeah.
And what happened?
I FaceTime with his daughter, and he wanted to talk to his grandchildren. So I had them on there, and I spoke with her, and he was saying hi to them. It's been a while since he's seen them. So, they were saying hi, and, since the holidays coming up, she wanted to make sure that her, his daughter's grandchildren were to see him and talk to him at least for a couple of minutes. And she said that meant so much to her.
Well, sure it did. That's absolutely phenomenal that you went on your own time, and you were able to connect the family via FaceTime on your cell phone, and they could talk to each other and see each other. I'm sure that made a tremendous difference in his life as well as their life, being so far away and being able to see him. There's nothing like face-to-face, and I think that's so it's incredible that we can do that in the technology these days,
Thank God.
And I truly appreciate it, because my grandson is far away, and I can not only talk to him, but I can see him. But for a person who's older, who's in a place like that, they don't have the ability, and you brought that to him. So that's awesome. So we've been talking to Right at Home and they are a home agency to help people with all kinds of services. If you would like to contact them for more information or to hire them for yourself or for a loved one, Grace or Shay, tell everybody how they can contact you.
Call us 561-910-1843. You will find the right solution in right at home.
The right solution at Right at Home. Give that number one more time.
Sure. 561-910-1843.
Okay, call Right at Home. You can talk to these lovely ladies, see them, and I can tell you that I've met so many of their employees, and they're like one big happy family. Also, don't forget to call Arden Court's toll-free number, 888-478-2410, and ask for your free copy of the 36-Hour Day book. We'd love to send this to you. Compliments of Arden Court's memory care communities all across the United States. Until next time, we'll see you next week, same time, same place. And until then, don't forget, give someone a hug because they need it, and so do you.
Thanks for joining us for this week's Caregiver Solutions with Marcia Teele. Join us next week as Marcia, who has 15 years of Alzheimer's disease and dementia care experience, brings you more needed information to help with the care of your loved one. This show can be seen again on caregiversolutions.info, and questions can be left on the site, which may be used on the program to help others. See you next week for more Caregiver Solutions. The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program were strictly those of its hosts, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management,